Welcome everyone, my name is Chris Ogonek, the host of NikonTV, and we are back again with another episode. So I'm going to call this part 3 of our Z9 launch type of episode. So we did one on the Z9 a couple weeks ago, we did one on the Z9 Easter eggs, and then we've done a couple interviews already with some of our other Nikon Camera ambassadors. Well, today is episode 3, where I'm going to talk about a lot of the NiKKOR Z lenses that we announced within the same time frame as the Z9, along with another Nikon Canada ambassador, Michael, who's been on before. So it's great to have him on again, and we'll talk to him about his experience with the Z9. Okay, so let's start off talking about the NiKKOR Z line lenses that we announced back in October. Now, I'm going to start off with one that was actually announced before the Z9. It was mid-October, I think about October 13th. This is the Z18-140, and it's a DX lens. Really cool because along with the ZFC that we announced earlier in the summer, we're really showing our love to the DXZ users with the 18-140, and I'll have another couple little hints of that talking a little bit later on at the end of the episode. So the 18-140, well, it obviously is very similar in terms of the focal length to what we had on the F-mount side of things, because we had a DX 18-140. Very versatile lens that could be used for a lot of different things. Basically an all-in-one type of focal length without having the size and weight that usually goes along with an 18-200 or an 18-300. Well, that's exactly where the Z 18-140 fits as well. It's smaller and lighter than the older F-mount version while having better image quality. There's really no downsides to it. So DX users are being shown a little bit of love with having these additional, this additional Z lens in the lineup. It's better quality than what we've had in the past. It's smaller, it's lighter. There's really no downsides. It's a really just solid lens. I don't have to say too much about it, to be totally honest with you. So let's actually move to the full frame side of things now, because on the full frame side of things, that's where a lot of the kind of excitement came in with the launch of the Z9. So along with the Z9, we had 3 different products that we announced, along with 1 development announcement. So the first product that I'll talk about isn't technically a lens, but it is the new FTZ adapter. Now with this adapter, there's very little difference between this and the original version of the FTZ. The main difference is when you go and use it on a Z9 and you use it in the vertical portrait orientation, well, now because there's no no tripod foot on the bottom of the actual adapter, it means that your fingers can fit really, really comfortably using the grip no matter what orientation you're actually in. So that's the biggest difference. You don't really lose anything. There's no difference in compatibility of lenses that it can be used with. So you still have over 90 lenses that can be used fully compatibility-wise in terms of autofocus and exposure, and we have over 300 lenses that can be going utilized if you go and look back at the older catalog that are some manual lenses, things like that. So that's the new FTZ adapter. One of the other lenses that we did announce is the Z24-120 f4S line lens. Now, this was a bit of a surprise because on our roadmap, I believe, basically since the beginning, we've had a 24-105 option as a focal length. Well, we kind of surprised people by jumping out and coming out with a 24-120, and surprise in a good way, because as much as people loved the 24-70 f4 kit lens that we have available on the market and have had since the launch of the entire Z system, image quality wise, it's spectacular. But there are definitely some users out there who want a little bit of added versatility. 70 millimeters isn't quite far enough. If you're an event shooter, you do weddings, other kind of quick random shoots where you don't always have time to be switching lenses. Well, that's really where the versatility of the 24-105 comes in. It's now a 5 times optical zoom. Now, I will say that my line for a number of years now, when talking about lenses and kind of how to choose between different focal lengths, is usually If you go and put more of a zoom in a lens, the image quality is usually going to suffer. I say suffer, but that's usually, that comes part and parcel with having an all-in-one type of zoom lens, is you kind of have that balance of, do I want the versatility or do I want ultimate image quality? Well, the fantastic thing about this 24 to 120 is you get both. So you have a 5 times optical zoom, but you also have image quality that's pretty much identical to the 24 to 70 f4. Okay, so where's the downside? Well, to be honest, there really isn't any. This is just a very versatile lens that's not only really well, does really well in the optical performance test, but it's also lighter. I think it's about 85, 90 grams lighter than the older version. So you have this really, really good combination with this new 24 to 120, on top of the fact that it's S-line. So what does that mean? It means you're going to have very little chromatic aberration on the video side of things. You're going to have very little focus breathing, if any. And it's also going to be fully weather sealed as well. So you really kind of get this whole beautiful package when you start looking at this 24 to 120. And let me tell you, I've been shooting with it a bunch on the Z9. I know not all of us are going to be shooting with a Z9, but it feels really, really good in the hand. The balance and everything just kind of fits really, really nicely. Okay, I'm going to go and put that down because I am now going to talk about the lens that most people want to hear about. And this is the Z 100 to 400 f4.5 to 5.6 VR S-line. This is the lens that a lot of people have been looking forward to, and it is finally here. This lens, there is a lot to go through. I will say I've been shooting with it quite a bit. The images that I've seen come out of this lens in terms of optical performance is stunning to say the least. This lens truly is an amazing performer, regardless of whether you're looking at the 100mm or the 400mm focal length. Across the entire board, it is just absolutely stellar. I know that Michelle Valberg has got her hands on this actually as well, and when she sent it back to me, it was like, do I have to? Are you sure I have to give it back? I can't just keep it in my bag forever. So yeah, it's a very, very good optically performing lens. And one of the things that I think is really going to do its well is it has this really good combination, because if you compare it to, let's say, the F-mount 80 to 400, the F-mount 80 to 400 was very small and versatile. I say small and versatile in comparison to what else is out there, specifically the F-mount 200 to 500. Because the 200 to 500, I think that lens really, I think it's safe to say that lens punches up. It punches above its class. In terms of sharpness-wise, it is just, oh my God, sharp. It is unbelievable. It's been my go-to lens, telephoto lens for years now because of how sharp it truly is. But when you look at that 200 to 500, there are a couple things that some people don't necessarily like the most about it. One of them being it is obviously bigger and heavier. And when you actually go and try and use its full zoom throw, when you try and, let's say, follow some action from far away to close or from close to far away, there is a really, really big throw. So you are having to kind of adjust as you're zooming. Well, one of the nice things about the older F-mount 80 to 400 was how small its zoom throw was. Well, you have an even smaller zoom throw with this new Z 100 to 400. It's actually the smallest zoom, I keep calling it zoom throw, but zoom throw within its class. So it's very, very small, very easy to, with one fluid movement, without having to readjust your hand positioning at all, it's able to go from one extreme to the other. So that's really exciting for a lot of people because you're getting even better image quality than you would get out of a 200 to 500 with the versatility of the 80 to 400. So this really is kind of a really good cross between what was basically the two main zoom options for a lot of users when you looked at the telephoto lenses within our F-mount options. So that is one really good thing functionally wise is it's the zoom throw. But there's a couple other really key things that I don't think a lot of people understand how much design goes into these products. Yes, we obviously care about the optical performance. We care about the VR system, because this lens does have built-in VR that works alongside the in-body image stabilizer that's within all of our full-frame bodies. But there's a lot that goes into the design side of things that people don't necessarily realize. So one of the things with this lens that we really wanted to make sure was key was this new type of technology we're calling inner balance technology. And what this inner balance technology does is it stops the very large movement of the center of gravity that you see with a lot of other super telephoto lenses. A lot of other telephoto lenses, when you would go and zoom them out, all of the heavy lenses are within that front element, and the whole lens feels like it's going to tip forward, especially if you're going and using, let's say, a gimbal. It makes it very difficult to easily use a gimbal when you have that center of gravity that's heavily shifting throughout the use. Well, with the inner balance technology that we're utilizing with the Z100 to 400, what we've gone and done is we've ensured that one of the heavier lens elements not moves forward, but it actually moves backwards. So this counteracts a few of the lens elements that obviously are at the very front that does extend out. And that counteraction of that force means that your center of gravity moves fractionally, to the point that when you're just hand holding it, you barely notice that there's any movement at all. So this means that when you're using a gimbal, when you are hand holding it for hours on end, you're not having to fully readjust your positioning, your body position when you shoot, because nothing really is changing. So that for me is just, it's nice to see how much of that design thought process our engineers kind of go through to not only ensure that the optical quality, the actual resulting image is top notch, but that the workflow, the actual process of getting the photographer actually shooting and getting that end resulting photo is as smooth and easy as possible, utilizing things like this inner balance technology. Now, another thing that our designers have tried to kind of think of with this lens is there's no locking switch on this body. So when I actually look at it here, I have the autofocus and then the manual toggle up top. I have the limiter switch from full to 3 meters to infinity. But a lot of super telephoto lenses will have a little locking switch, or they'll have some sort of torque assist or torque limiter on them, so that you can actually tighten or loosen how tight that zoom portion of the actual lens is to move. And the reason for that is most of the time, when you actually go and turn a super telephoto lens straight down, you point it straight down to the ground. Let's say you have it on a strap, you're walking around with it, you're out hiking with it, and a lot of the times you're going to get what's called zoom creep. That front element is going to pull further and further and further down. And that's obviously not something that you want. It's going to put unwanted wear and tear on the lens, and it's just something that we want to stay away from. Well, why is there no locking mechanism or torque assist on this lens? Well, the reason for that is our designers actually went and when they designed the lens, they actually tried to design the zoom mechanism to have opposing forces built in. So when you actually have the lens just sitting stationary but pointed straight down, those opposite forces actually negate each other and stop that front zoom element from creeping forward. So if I'm at 100 millimeters and I shake, doesn't move at all. If I go down to 200 millimeters and I shake, doesn't move at all. Even if I go to 300 millimeters and I give it a shake, what would be one of the heaviest loads on this lens at 300 mil, and it's not moving at all. So really, really cool on the design side of things. Yes, the image quality is there, but we're really trying to make sure that the entire usage of this lens, from the wear and tear, so long-term effects on this lens are as minimal as possible, which means the lens is going to last you a much longer period of time. You're going to be able to shoot much easier, whether you're hand holding, whether you're shooting a gimbal. And on top of that, it's fully weather sealed, and you're going to get some of the best image quality that you have ever seen from this class of lens. So all together, it is a really, really impressive little package that the more I think people shoot with, you're going to be really, really impressed with that. Hopefully as impressed as myself and Michelle Valberg have been. Okay, so those were the main lenses that we announced in October, the 18 to 140 at the middle October. And then with the Z9 launch, we did the 24 to 120, the 100 to 400, and the FTZ adapter, the new one. But we did have a development announcement for another lens. And this was for the 400 millimeter f2.8 lens. Now we're calling this a development announcement, which means there's no price associated with it. There's no other real specs involved. We don't even have a timeline as to when that will be fully launched. But we did announce that it will have a built-in teleconverter. Okay, so this is pretty exciting. It's taking what is normally a single focal length lens, a prime lens, and it's turning into a multi-use lens. We saw this with our 180 to 400 with the built-in 1.4 tele, and a lot of photographers that I know who've utilized this just love to talk about the functionality of it, how much greater versatility it has than, let's say, their older 200 to 400, purely because that one flip of a switch and you get the 1.4 tele. Okay, so one last thing I want to talk about today, and it's to do with the Z9 launch, but it's not necessarily a product that's available right now. What we actually did at the same time as the Z9 was we updated our Z roadmap. So this is all the NiKKOR Z lenses that we've said are coming and have come up to this point. We've gone and updated it. So as I mentioned, we gave some extra love to the DX users with the 18 to 140. Well, we also have some new DX lenses on the roadmap. So we have a DX 24 millimeter, which is really exciting because that's going to be about equivalent to a 35 millimeter, not quite, but who's really being that picky? I know some of you will be. So we have a DX 24 millimeter. We also have a DX 12 to 28, which is exciting because I know a lot of people have asked for that. Very ultra wide angle zoom lens. I'm excited to play with that. Now on the full frame side of things, we're looking at a couple lenses being added here as well. We have a 26 millimeter prime. We also have two new prime super telephotos. We have another 400 millimeter, and then we also have an 800 millimeter that's on the roadmap now. So very, very exciting. And that's in addition to the 85 millimeter that we've already had up there, the 600 mil, and the 200 to 600. So really exciting times, I think, even more exciting times than what we currently have had in the last couple of weeks are obviously still coming. We have other DX lenses coming. We have other full frame lenses coming across the entire board. Really, really exciting time to be a photographer and to just kind of be able to sink our teeth into all this brand new technology. Okay, so let's now shift gears. Let's now go and talk to our Nikon Canada ambassador. So this is Michael. We've had him on before. I love talking with him. So let's go and figure out what he thought of the Nikon Z9 when he was able to play with it for that short period of time. Okay, let's go see what Michael thought. Michael, welcome back to Nikon TV. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Chris. How you doing?
I'm really good, really good. And this is great. I think this is your third time on Nikon TV with me, so it's nice to have a friendly face back on.
Yeah, same. Nice to be here.
Well, we're going to kind of jump right on in because I know you want to talk about the Z9 even more than you've been able to so far. So let's really kind of try and kind of get people a little bit more familiar with some of the stuff that you've done. Obviously, with with a lot of your social work, if people follow you there, obviously you have multiple accounts, but I think a lot of people know you doing your sports work. And that's actually a lot of our focus from the Z6 II launch last year is you were a big part of that. Now, we wanted you to go in a slightly different direction. We wanted you to focus more on the portrait side of things for the stuff that you shot with the Z9. And for this style of work, how did you kind of feel the ergonomics and the feel of the camera? How did you find it for shooting portraiture in the kind of the setup that we had you shoot?
For portraiture, it was the perfect camera because of one of the new features, right? And which is the four-axis tilting screen that we now have. This is something that I've really missed a lot in the current lineup, moving from the Z6 to Z6 II and Z7 II. And you know, the moment I found out that we had that, then it was just more like, you know, this is the perfect camera for my portrait work now. So now I don't have to, you know, bend my neck in awkward positions just to be able to see what I could see in the portrait mode. So I could just look straight down, bring the screen up as much as I need to be able to do more of those portrait mode shots, right? So it's something that I'm really looking forward to using a lot more than we currently have in the current lineup. So I'm excited about that.
Because when you shoot portraits, you're not the type of photographer to kind of throw it on a tripod and just sit stationary, not moving at all. You like to move around and get really, really active, don't you?
Right, I do. And most of my portrait work is environmental, and even in the studio, I still move around a lot. Sometimes I have my subjects being shot from a much higher point of view, using like a ladder or something like that, just to get some, you know, something different, right? So I'm always about something different, you know, from every shot that I take. So, and that involves me moving a lot, you know, shooting high, shooting low, from the side. So being able to have that just right in my hand and not having to use a tripod, it's very, very key to making it much easier to get my portrait mode shots, for sure.
That's awesome, because I think a lot of people, I think when they see the initial specs of the Z9 and they see a lot of the sample images that are out there, a lot of it is sports and action, because obviously the camera is designed for that. We have 20 frames a second. We have 30 frames a second if you go to JPEG. We have 120 frames a second if you go into 11 megapixel JPEGs. It has an amazingly fast reading sensor, amazing autofocus. So there's all of that kind of built in at the core of it, but people don't realize that this camera with that built-in grip, it really even works amazingly well as a portrait camera as well, and as an event shooter, whether you're shooting engagement shoots, weddings, just regular studio portraiture. And that's really kind of why we wanted you to look at that side of it, because we wanted some great images that showed off not just a few of the features of the camera, such as that built-in grip, the LCD, four-axis tilting, but the image quality.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people kind of forget that the Z7 II is one of the best image quality cameras on the market. When we look at dynamic range, when we look at resolution, it kind of as a package comes together, and the Z9 is the same resolution. It's 45 megapixels. So one of the things I loved about some of your shots is the amount of detail. And like when I was zooming into some of the shots that you gave us, I was blown away at the detail in the camera. Now I'm assuming, I probably shouldn't ask this and not knowing the answer, but I'm assuming that you love the image quality as well.
Yeah. So when I was, for the short period of time I had the camera, when I was making those images, I think what blew me away the most is the files that I got straight out of camera. So most of my shots, actually all of my shots, I shot in RAW and JPEG, and the JPEG files were like, it was so crisp. The detail was there. Obviously, I didn't do anything crazy with my shots. I just wanted to show how much clean and how much detail you can get from this camera. The dynamic range, I don't even know. It's mind blowing. I thought the Z7 II was an amazing and outstanding camera. It obviously is, but this one takes it a step even higher, and the detail from those images were so incredibly sharp.
Yeah, I find it amazing looking at some of your shots. And I almost forget because we're so used to having a flagship camera be this low resolution camera that, like, yeah, okay, you can shoot portraits with a D6. You absolutely can. But depending on what the output is going to be, you may not choose that as your number one choice. It would be a D850 or a Z7 II. But with the Z9, it does it all. There's no reason to think which tool should I pick up.
Right.
It's always pretty much
Yeah.
the Z9.
Yeah. It's now that one camera, right? You look at the Z7 II, great image quality, but frames per second is obviously in the mid range. But with this one, you have even higher frame rate, and I could shoot sports with this camera. Obviously, I could shoot weddings. Obviously, I could shoot portraits in the studio. Obviously, right? So in the past, I would probably pick my Z6 II over my Z7 II for sports because of the higher frame rate. But now you even have this camera that has even a higher frame rate than both cameras, which is it just makes it that one camera in my bag always, right? So
Yeah, I'm really excited to get a full production sample into your hands because I know that it hurt you a little bit that when we contacted you to go and shoot this, usually, that a lot of people think of you as the sports guy.
Yeah.
And when you got the call and you're like, I'm ready, and we're like, we're doing portraits, and you were like, a little bit of sports, and we're like, portraits, and you're like, a little bit of sports. So I know that you're really, really excited to get this camera in your hands and actually shoot some sports and put the autofocus really through its paces. Because as good as the eye detect is for portraiture, it's not really pushing the camera to its limits. It's gotten to the point now with the Z9 that I feel it's absolutely rock solid. I don't care what environment I'm shooting and how low light the light is. I know that the camera is going to lock onto my subject's eye when I'm shooting portraits. But I know you want to go and shoot some sports. Is there one feature that you're really looking to kind of get out of the Z9 that you, let's say, wouldn't have with your current Z7 II or Z6 II?
before I answer that question, I must say that most of my shots were done in the studio, and in the studio you obviously have very, very low lights because you're shooting with strobes, right? And until your strobe fires, then your subject is exposed, right? So, and the autofocus did not disappoint. It was always on point, and this makes me even more excited because we're shooting sports in mostly non-professional environments with very, very low light, and those points where you shoot in professional environments, obviously you have good amount of light, but in those cases where you're shooting basketball in a poorly lit gym and stuff like that, this camera would definitely hunt everything that you want it to hunt, right? So but back to your question, what feature am I looking forward to the most? As a sports photographer, I think one of the features that I wished we had with the current lineup was a zero blackout in the viewfinder, and boy, this is exciting. I feel like I'm shooting with my D4S again. Like I could see everything. There's no, even though the blackout doesn't necessarily make me miss any shots, but being able to see everything clear without no blackout is definitely something that I'm looking forward to. Obviously, we talked about the iframe rate already, so that is now you have more options to choose from. You can miss the moment. You just have to be ready to capture the moment, and that gives you more frames to work with. And the difference, like I always say in most of my talks, between a good shot and a great shot is just that millisecond difference. The placement of the hand or the eyes being slightly open or closed, and now you have more frames to pretty much work with, right? So but yeah, the zero blackout is something I'm really, 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 really excited about.
But overall, you just want everything.
Well, this camera you want basically has everything. It has everything now. I feel like it has everything now. So it's exciting. It's exciting, and I know, like it's something that a lot of folks are looking forward to, and I can tell you that if you shoot wildlife, shoot cars, now you have the car tracking thing going on, right? Anything you shoot, sports, portraits, weddings, boy, you can do anything with this camera.
Oh, yeah, I cannot wait to get the camera in your hands, and I'm definitely, if you're okay with it, which I think you hopefully will be, once you do start going and shooting some sports with the camera, I'd definitely love to have you back on so that you can actually talk about how you push the camera to its extremes on the sports side of things as well.
Absolutely, I can't wait for that.
Okay, well then, thank you very much for joining us, Michael, and we'll have you on next time.
Thanks for having me. Talk soon.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, well, that was very, very exciting. I love hearing the excitement from our ambassadors, hearing how much they love the camera, how much they want to get it in their hands and just go and shoot with it. That to me it's great to hear. Great to hear when it echoes how much I love the camera too. Alrighty, so that's pretty much it for this episode. We covered a lot of the new NiKKOR Z lenses we've announced over the last little while. We talked to Michael about his experience with the Z9, how much he wants to go and shoot some more sports with it. As always, if there's other things that you guys want to know about any product, doesn't have to be Z9, doesn't have to be even mirrorless talk, go and throw it in the comments below and I'll make sure not only will I answer it, but if you guys want anything in particular for future episodes, make sure you throw that down there as well and I'll make sure I get it done. So until the next episode, everybody, stay safe and I'll see you then.